Hello and welcome back to another video. I took a little bit of a break after the disaster in my Zone 5 on the main, but I am back, definitely talking about the restart for the next few days. And we're going to start by talking about the Star. So, the Star is a recent development that, with the Civil War in 74 that I covered, which you've likely heard of, they kind of tossed away a lot of their power. And we're going to look at the specific data as well today. I have a chart with the most recent data from basically the morning or so that I'm filming this at least. And so we're gonna just take a quick look at that, as well as discuss you don't want the Star for a long time, the dangers of it, and overall how to get rid of it. And I think my kingdom's done a great job of that so far too. So without further ado, while I send my troops out, we are going to discuss this. And let me start off with, showing that we currently have the Star right here. Earlier it was with 3874, but since their massive civil war and we gained a lot of their members, we have now become a Rising Star Kingdom. Why is this bad? So the reason this is bad is exactly what's on screen right now. Basically, when you have the Star, anyone over 10 million power cannot automatically migrate to your kingdom. They basically need what's called tickets. You get like 3, I believe, in the prep season, which is really bad. You want those for big tier 5 players or people who are going to open tier 5. So that's something that's an issue. Now we can only have 10 million with the Star. What's the alternative? If you do not have the Star, you can have up to 25 million. And that's a huge difference. A 25 million power player is essentially a dolphin, someone spending thousands on the game. They may go to tier 5 eventually, they may not, but regardless, 25 million is a huge impact. A 10 million power player can't even be a free-to-play at this point, or a low spender, but a free-to-play at this point. So you can see there's a pretty stark difference there. Now, what do we think about our camp? Or not camp, sorry, I'm using my main. What do I think about our situation? Let's take a look. So, let's take a look at our current situation. The only thing relevant here is the top 300 line, so we can ignore the 650, even though that does have implications for our greater KVK, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that now, but especially later on. And you can see here. So basically, in our top 300, we have about 40 million more than 74. And these are constantly changing. The numbers you see here now in this video, as of 17 UTC on the 13th, are drastically different. There's been people migrating out, people migrating in, especially for 74, who's still losing people. They still, for instance, have Base Tank, who is a 55 million whale who will be coming to us. So that's just some minor examples, right? But when you see that it is so close between some kingdoms, what you want to do is get rid of the Star. Give the Star to this kingdom. How do you go about doing that? There's a few different ways. First, you can tell everyone to hold power. You can say do not use any training speeds, do not use any power pushing events, basically in general. And you can see the average power kind of reflects the slight increase, about 150k advantage, and we're just a bit ahead amongst how many players, right? That kind of makes sense if you look at it. So when you talk about this, you limit events. Now, no one just pushes power stupidly, right? Randomly, or they shouldn't, but the majority don't. So if you take something like a Mightiest Governor Power stage, and you say, listen, we're now a strong fixed kingdom, we will only do 1 million power maximum in this stage, or 1 million points rather, so 500k power. That helps limit. You could do lower too, but 1 million is generally like a very safe number, I feel. Some people just have things timed to finish automatically. They can't help it, right? So 1 million power, there's very few things that are automatically finishing that'll get you more than 500k power, 1 million points, as I meant to say. So stuff like that is a powerful way to limit it. And same goes for things like training events. Training, while it doesn't give as much power, it does give power, and it gives everyone power regularly. They're passively training regardless if they're pushing, so it's something that's worth also limiting. You could consider limiting things like gold head events. Those are generally much harder to limit because someone has to win. And in Mightiest Governor, you have other things, right? Maybe they push in, Barb stage, or they have Gathering Marches prepped, that type of thing. So there are other ways around that, which makes limiting power stage more reasonable. But yeah, so when you look at this, right, you can also decide to push out rogues, make them migrate, or convince them to migrate, maybe offer some sort of deal. You can zero some people that are, deadweights that you haven't really cared about. They're non-family alliances. But hey, we're literally 40 million power from losing the Star, which means we could bring in maybe a 25 million power whale or something, or dolphin, I shouldn't say whale. And so we're going to go ahead and zero a non-family alliance. right? Something like that. And with that said, it's also one of those things that I'm not saying just go 0, start wars, be stupid like 74 did. That wasn't for the star, but you get the point. But again, there are people that migrate in, there are people that migrate out. The star will change hands back and forth. We will be gaining people because of it. And there has been already some significant movement towards that effect. And one of the biggest, which I probably will include in a video soon, is we had Cookie migrate out. And I've talked a lot about Cookie on this channel. Cookie went to 66, a whale kingdom. I understand, right? Our KVK in general is not a whale KVK. The thing about this that makes it not really big of a deal is we are getting tier 5s migrating in. Also, Noose here. Noose is a really great whale, one of the friendliest whales I've ever met. I've had nothing but a pleasure speaking and hanging out with them. They've also done a very impressive job with commanders. I think all 5 of their commanders are level 60, which is really crazy. I know that sounds maybe silly and not impressive to some. Yeah, look at that. All of them are, they're very impressive stuff. That's not something that you really expect to see at this stage of the game. So great to, good job. That's just really all I can say. Good job to them. Good job to Noose. Good job to you if you're watching this video. But just because we lost Cookie, are we weak? No. Look at this amazingness. We are a 3 alliance with really a 4th support alliance kingdom. All of these are active players. And so while I didn't want to include the people over 300 in our earlier discussion, because at the end of the day, they aren't included in the matchmaking weighting there, the star weighting, they are going to fight, right? So we're over 300 when you look at this. This is 116, oops, 113, and then 96, already at over 300. Then we get to the support alliance, 96. These are all fighters. And so we've got, 400 people that will be fighting. And I think that's something that gets, under and I think that's something that just doesn't get enough credit, We have 400 people, and even if you want to be conservative, let's say a bunch don't fight, very conservative, 100 do not show up, you have 300 fighters. And if everyone's fielding one march and you have 300 people on the field, 300 marches on the field, I think we'll be pretty damn happy at the end of the day, right? And so with that said, this video really was about the star, but I did go on a little bit of a tangent with just the excitement of, our kingdom's growth and all the power we've gained. We have clearly a lot of strong people, and I will take 300 amazingly powerful members any day over 1 to 2 bigger whales. I think it's just the better way to go. One whale gets 5 marches in this KVK, right? 5 marches cannot beat 300 players. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And I'll talk about this a lot more once matchmaking gets here in about 2 weeks. Once, migration's finalized with all that, and I can really confidently say some things. But overall, very, very exciting. I'm going to be coming out with a few videos for this account and this restart in the near future. I do have one featuring a special account review for someone that I'm super excited about that isn't on this restart. But generally speaking, I will be doing a lot of restart content with some special focuses around times like Zenith, when I know some people are going to really pop off, as well as, like I said, pre-KVK, when there are people that are pushing, and, matchmaking in general, right? When we have a updated scan of, hey, these are our allies, here are our enemies, let's look at the average power of each, let's calculate the people I expect to be active, like I talked about a little bit in this video. Let's look at, the deads they've taken, the troop power they have. These things are pretty valuable statistics, and overall can really be a fair metric, not end all be all, but a fair metric to say, you guys are really going to be fighting an uphill battle this KVK. You guys have a good chance of winning this KVK. So with that said, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Like, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions or want to see more of some type of content, because now I've done a pretty decent variety. And, I'll see you very soon. Take care, everyone.